Welcome to episode 2 of this series, tracking the behind the scenes of my new short film, His Warm Hands. So in the last episode I talked about how I need to get better at painting, because the plan is to paint each frame of the film. So this is what I had last week, which is the first painting that I did. So my plan was to paint every day that I could, to try and improve. So for the last week I've painted every day apart from one day because it was Christmas. So the first painting that I did was of this character from the film Little Men by Ira Sachs. I think for a first try it's not too bad. It was in watercolour. I think I struggled because of it being a bit further away. It's not a close-up of the face. And I was trying to get all the details in. It's difficult when it's a bit further away. I also went around it in fine liner, which I think was a mistake in retrospect because it makes it look too cartoony, and also because the fine liner isn't super fine, it makes like details on the eyes look too big and things like that. I also think the reference image maybe wasn't the best one I could have chosen. I like that scene in the film, I think that's why I went with it, but actually as an image, yeah, I don't know. And the eye on the right looks a little bit wonky as well. But yeah, for the first try I don't think it was too bad. But for day 2, I wanted to do something more detailed. So I went with a shot from Mysterious Skin, and this one's much better. I'm very happy with this one. I mean, I'll show some clips of me actually making it if you want to see them as I'm making them. I'm posting on here on YouTube as well as my Instagram and on TikTok. So yeah, you can see me actually painting them a little bit more in those videos. One thing I struggled with this though was getting the highlights on the right side of the face. I think it's still too dark, and it's a problem that I ran into a lot with watercolor. Is that to get the highlights you need to use the color of the paper. You need to leave those areas white in order to get that white. And I think I just don't have the. I think I see the color and I want to put the color in, and then I don't know, I lose the highlights. So that's definitely something I struggled with watercolor. But yeah, overall I'm happy with this for this painting. I think it's good. The only issue is that it took a long time. So then the day after I went with a frame from the Holdovers because it was Christmas Eve. So I painted Paul Giamatti in the Holdovers. Again, I'm happy with this. I think again struggled with the highlights on the left eye, his right eye, but on our left. I went too dark. I think I was trying to, I don't know, I think I'd gone too red or something, so I was trying to cool down with some green and some blues, but it just made him look like he's got a black eye. Yeah, I think I went too strong on the colours on that side of his face. But other than that, I'm again pretty happy with it. I think, it looks decent. So then day 4, I did this from Beau. So this was my first time using gouache, because this was the day after Christmas I did this, and I got some gouache for Christmas. The thing that I struggle with gouache is blending and also getting the colours. I like being able to layer colours with watercolour. I think, I don't know, it just suits me. Like I can add a little bit of green or a little bit of purple or whatever. Whereas with gouache, it tends to be thicker, and also it mixes with the layers below it a lot more, which means I struggled with the colours a lot more, and it's a lot more opaque, and I don't know, I found it a lot less forgiving than watercolour, which is funny because when I was doing watercolour the first few tries I thought that was super not forgiving, because particularly with the highlights. But I think gouache is definitely much harder for me. I think it's used a lot more for illustrative stuff, and I'm not really going for that. But yeah, I'll talk about it later about watercolor and gouache and how it relates more to the film. But yeah, for now I'm just going to go through these paintings. There's 2 more. So this is from Winter Boy. Went back to watercolor for this, just because I needed a bit more of a ego boost. I needed to feel like, I was okay after that. I mean, I don't hate that picture, but yeah, I was struggling with it a lot more. So yeah, I went back to watercolor, and I'm happy with this one. I'm struggling with getting the darks and the lights and getting them as dark as I'd like and as light as I'd like. I think the left side of his face should be darker. But other than that, again, I'm pretty happy with it. This again took 2 hours, which is an issue. If I'm painting the film, that's going to be an issue. Yesterday I did this in gouache, which is from the film Benjamin by Simon Amstell. Again, this was gouache, and again I struggled a lot getting the colours right, getting the values right, and blending it. I don't know if this is better or worse than the Beau Travail one. Probably worse. I went in with the thicker fine liner afterwards. It wasn't dark enough, the shadows. But again, that just comes across not very well. I ended up editing the colours and stuff and making it looking a bit better in post, which I think worked very well. But actually straight on the canvas, it doesn't look very good. Yeah, so that's all the paintings I've done so far. Overall, I'm happy with the watercolour ones. I'm very happy with some of the watercolour ones. But I need to get a lot better at gouache if I want to use that. But I guess that brings me on to my thoughts on how that relates to the actual film that I'm making, His Warm Hands. So I think because I'm struggling so much with the gouache, I mean, I'm going to keep trying to get better at it. But for now, because of how it looks and I think just how gouache works, I'm going to use that more for backgrounds rather than like the characters so much, especially in shots where I want to get the kind of the more subtle parts of the character's face and colours and things like that. But then maybe for wider shots where I'm just getting a general silhouette, it could be still useful just because it's so quick. Like gouache is much quicker because you only have to put down like a layer. Like you have to put, it's one layer and that can be enough sometimes. Whereas with watercolour, you're rarely going to put down one layer and it be, dark enough to use. I think, gouache will be more for the backgrounds, and then I can use watercolour for the foregrounds and then do them separately and then composite them. And also I'm going to go back to my shot list and go back to my plans for the lighting in the actual 3D scene and see if I can change them to make them suit the gouache a little bit more, or not even just suit gouache, but make them easier to paint. So for example, if I have like hard coloured light, that could be easier because then I just have to get the shape on the face rather than getting all the details of like the skin and like other colours in the skin. So like if you shine like a white light, right now you can see there's different colours in my face. There's reds and greens and purples and stuff. But if I would just have a red light, I mean, don't think I have any coloured lights with me, but if I were to just do a red light on me, it would mean that everything is just a shade of red. Everything is, I'm just dealing with values. It's pretty much black and white at that point, which makes it much easier to paint quicker, because I'm just basically doing it in black and white, but it, with color, but it's just one color. It's monochromatic. So if I can make as much of it kind of relatively monochromatic, I think that'll be easier for me to paint because I just have to get the form, the shape of the light. And harder light also would be easier for gouache as well. I don't have to struggle so much with getting kind of soft light, which I can do with watercolor, but I struggle with gouache because at the moment, if it's 2 hours per frame, that's too long. I need it to be like half an hour, maybe, per painting. Ideally, there are some scenes which I can then, have more detailed paintings in and spend more time on. Spend like 2 hours per frame, or 1 hour, 1.5 hours per frame. But for the whole film, that's not realistic. But yeah, so like I've said in the last video, there are scenes which I think I could drop down to like 6 or even 4 frames per second, and it could still work and still be usable. And so for those scenes, maybe I could go more detailed on those frames, because then it's like I only have to do 6 frames and I've got a second, rather than doing 12 frames and it taking double the time. So I can put more time into those paintings. Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been up to for the last week, is trying to get better at painting. I'm going to do another painting now, which I'll film so you can see that a bit more. Right, so I'm going to do a painting from the film Close by Lukas Dhont. So I have to type his name. But yeah, so the first thing I'll do is I've got my paper. got my paper. So I'm shooting through a mirror because, I don't know, it's the best way I could think to film this. Okay, so I've got my paper. I've got my picture on my screen. So picture on the screen. And then I just trace it from the screen because when I make the actual film, I'm going to be tracing because I'll have animated it in 3D. So it just makes sense to, there's no need to try and get good at drawing freehand or painting freehand or whatever. If I'm just going to be painting when I actually come to do the film. And then I've got a 3B pencil. I would use a 2B, but I can't find my 2B. So got my 3B. And then I'm just gonna sketch the outline. And what I can do as well is if I just run the curves and then bring the curves up, then I can see it a little bit nicer. The first thing that I do when I start a painting is do an underpainting in areas of shadow. For this image I can see a lot of green in the shadows, so I decided to use green for this. I then started adding warmer midtones with a colour that more closely resembled his skin colour. Then I went in with some reds to balance the green in the shadows and warm up the image. Then I used blue to deepen the shadows, added some more greens into areas that needed it, and started painting detailed areas like the lips and the eyes. I made sure to leave highlight areas such as the cheeks completely alone so that they could be the white of the page. Unfortunately my camera died, but then I went in with the hair and clothes in a similar way, underpainting the shadows and then building up layers of colour. Yeah, so that's what I'll be doing this week, practicing painting. In the future, so in the coming weeks, I need to work on my shot list more, work on my script a bit more, making sure I'm happy with all of that, and then try and start properly storyboarding. I also want to try out some different things with maybe some coloured pencils and stuff, and also just continue and practicing painting. I think I'm at a pretty decent base level, but I need to be able to get better but also faster. If I can get a similar quality in less time, that would be good. Thanks for watching. This was part 2 in the series. If you haven't seen part 1, I was uploaded last week, and that's a bit more general over like everything that I'm going to be doing, talking about everything. Yeah, I'm going to try and keep updates fairly regular. Yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Goodbye.